This conference will now be recorded.
Topic is virus, worm, and Trojan. So in this video, we'll see what is the difference between virus, worm, and Trojan, and we will discuss in depth what is virus. Okay. So virus, worm, and Trojan belongs to a software class known as malware. Malware is nothing but short form for malicious software. Okay, so these malicious software, malicious codes cause damage to the system. The main intention is they enter the system and cause different types of damage to the system. Based on the types of damage caused by the malware, they are categorized into virus, worm, and Trojan. So, what is virus? Okay, virus is a piece of code which gets attached to a particular application and it changes the functionality of the application. A small piece of code which gets attached to a particular application which changes the functionality of the application. So I can give you an example of media player. So media player basically is used for playing videos or audios. Now suppose a virus gets attached to this media player software. Okay, what it does is it just makes the particular software to delete files in the system. So main critical files within the system gets deleted. So this was not the actual functionality of media player, but why it happens? Because the virus has got attached to it. Okay, coming to worm. Worm is also similar to virus, but its functionality differs. Okay, what worm exactly does is it replicates itself in number of times. So what happens if a particular code gets replicated? It just exhausts the system resources. So once it exhausts the system resources, the system is going to slow down. So that is worm's way of attacking the system. So it replicates itself so that the system resources gets exhausted. Once the system resources gets exhausted, the system is going to slow down. The last type is Trojan. Now, coming to Trojan, Trojan is also like virus, but it leaks the sensitive information from your system. Okay, imagine that it is hidden. It is always a hidden piece of code. Now it is like somebody is monitoring you what you're doing in the system. Okay, now you enter your username, you enter your password, this entire information will be leaked to outside world. Okay, it is like a hidden monitoring of your system. The same thing you can, in a better way you can see, is you have a team viewer software. Now you just install team viewer software and another person installs team viewer software. I'm just giving an example. It is not Trojan. I'm just telling about a software which you can relate to your Trojan. Okay. So team viewer software, why basically that software is used? It is like giving control of your system to somebody's hand. Okay. So basically you get a user ID. If you share the user ID, there will be a acceptance request from the person you have shared your user ID of TeamViewer. Once you give the user ID and give accept, he will be connected to your particular mobile or particular system. So what happens is he can view what all you do and he can take complete control of your system. Now this is a positive, in positive sense, what this software can do is if there is some problem within your with within your system, a external person like a call center person will take your system under his control and he will rectify the error and give it to you back. Okay, so but in the same way this particular software will also be misused by some people who will just ask you to share the information and they just get to know what is the password, online transaction password, everything. If you're typing on your system, everything is visible. So it is something like that. I have just given you an example of a software where, but it is actually, Trojan is actually not at all useful. It is just a piece of code with an intention of leaking the computer's information to outside world. Okay. Now, moving further, we'll just discuss about virus. So, as I told you before, virus is nothing but a piece of code which attaches itself to an existing application and it changes the application's functionality. Most probably, the virus cause the action of the virus will be deletion of the system files. Okay. Now, what happens is always the virus code will be attached at the beginning of the a particular application to which it is getting attached. Okay, I gave you an example of media player. So if it is getting attached to media player, this virus will get attached to the beginning of code of media player. So virus always gets attached at the beginning and executes at the beginning. After execution of virus only, the actual application code executes. Okay, now sometimes what happens, the virus may be attached at the beginning or as well as at the end. So that is nothing but prepended and appended. The virus can be attached at the beginning as well as at the end. Now what happens is once a virus infects a particular file, it gets split inside the file. That is, it gets interspersed inside the file. How this happens is whoever is writing the code for the virus, they put a jump statement at the end of the virus code. And because of the jump statement, what happens? The virus gets split in the infected file, causing different portions of the file to be damaged. Okay, so this is your features of virus what we are discussing. Okay, now see, have you ever thought how an antivirus software is going to detect a virus? Okay, so virus is something which gets attached to your application, existing application, it gets attached. So obviously if something is getting attached, the size of that particular application increases. So your antivirus software compares by the size of the original application and the infected application. The infected application will be larger in size when compared to the actual application. In this way, the antivirus software catches the virus. Now, the virus creators are even more smarter. What they do, they adopt two techniques to overcome this particular problem. Okay, or to escape from the antivirus software. First technique is what? They will modify the file service interrupt handler. Okay, so what happens is file service interrupt handler will return the attributes of files. Okay, means what is the size of the files, what are the permissions for the file, all these attributes of the file, whatever you know, all this will be returned to whenever this particular service handler is invoked. Okay, so that time what happens, since the virus has infected this particular file service interrupt handler, it is going to return the actual size of the file only. It is not going to return the size of the infected file. I told you the size of the infected file will be more than the size of the actual file, or I can say the size of the application, infected application will be much more than the size of the actual application. So what happens is my virus is going to infect the person who is going to return the attributes of the file. So obviously he is going to return the wrong attributes. Once it returns the original size of the application, there is no threat for it and it will be saved from the antivirus software. Okay, another way is what? It adds a compression technique. Okay, so what to an application the virus wants to get attached, so it first compresses the application. After compressing the application, it gets attached to that application. Later, whenever it has to be executed, the application will be uncompressed and it will be executed. So what exactly it does is when you compress something, the size of that particular application reduces, and after compressing you are attaching the virus, so obviously the size doesn't differ. So this is another way to escape from the antivirus software. Okay, now the last one is system calls. Okay, the virus keeps making different system calls, and based on these system calls only we can distinguish malicious code from benign code What is benign code? It is nothing but the actual code. Okay, see, if I have frequent system calls, like system calls to create new process, to create TCP connections, then to copy sometimes a virus will create system calls to copy its own code multiple times, then to change the Windows registry entries. Okay, all this will give me an information that something is going wrong, and this particular application has been infected by virus. So this is the last part. So I hope you understood what are the three categories we discussed: virus, worms, and Trojan. Virus modifies the functionality of application. Worms replicates itself multiple times. Trojan will leak out the sensitive information from the computer. So all these three things we have discussed, and in depth we have discussed virus. In later session, we'll be discussing about worm. Thank you.